Richard? Okay, I'll call the meeting to order on this snowy night. Thank you all for coming. And the first thing is approval of the minutes of January 2nd. Motion to
Make a
approve.
motion to approve the minutes of January 2nd.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is addition to the agenda. I had two. One is the last council of governments meeting, and the second one is an executive session on personnel with the transfer station. So is there any other additions?
Second, that we add those two, that those are the two additions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Communications, got, we did get a couple about the Smith Place Bridge alternate route, which we can discuss under bridges with Roger. And then we did also hear from engineers on the Nash Pond. I've been talking to Karen about that. The Nash Pond on Popple Swamp is working its way through the regulatory process. They completed redoing the dam, and they're putting in a slightly smaller, they have a multi-year dredging project, putting in a smaller pond, probably a deeper pond, with a couple islands in it and a fire hydrant. Is that about right, Roger? Has been following on inland wetlands?
Yep.
Yeah, so anyway, that's a big project that's happening in town.
Smaller in acreage? but
Smaller
maybe-
in acreage.
Maybe the same amount of volume?
Maybe the same amount, but deeper, I would think. Then it's getting pretty shallow. Any other communications? Any public comments? Okay, next we have Jim Vaneke, the highway foreman, to talk about the highway budget. Jim and I have gone over it a little bit. But before we do, I'd like to give Jim credit. It's been a not an overwhelming snow year, but it's been a persistent storm year. And just to give you a little glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes in the town, this weekend I got a call on Saturday morning about water going over the road because of all the rain. And I called Jim up, and sure enough, there was water on Lake Road that was gushing out into the road because the culvert had iced over and was totally jammed with ice, and it was a fairly big culvert. So Jim came up and met me there, and he had the common sense or Yankee ingenuity to bring a large chainsaw. So that was the first time in my history in this job of seeing somebody actually repair a culvert with a chainsaw. But he cut through it and
Cut through the
opened
ice?
up. The ice, yeah, the road, the water was actually coming out around the head wall, so it was not a great setup.
Did you have to get into the water pretty deep to do that?
About 3 feet.
Wow.
Was
Yeah,
that-
into the pipe, but you didn't get to it. Just
Just below my knees.
below the knees. So, but anyway, so that
Quickly turned ice.
What's
that
in-
worked out.
What's interesting about cutting with the chainsaw is ice dulls it very quickly.
No.
No?
We've done it for fire department, cold water rescue drills. Never had a problem with dulling it. We had to dull it when it hit the concrete pipe.
I wouldn't try it on wood afterwards. I think it'll continue to cut the
It was
ice.
so cold it froze up, and I had to put it in the truck and thaw it out.
Yeah.
But, do what you have to do.
Yeah,
was
I'm not saying
something-
you don't have to. I'm not saying you don't have to do it, but if you got to cut the ice, you got to cut the ice. But
Yeah.
it's
The temperature was dropping, but then by comparison, the next day, or 2 days later, Martin Luther King Day, was it yesterday? I called you up and bugged you again because I got a call from the State Office of Emergency Management saying that they wanted our light tower, which belongs to the state, but we house in our highway garage down at Kent because of all the flooding, and the fire department had been down there doing some assistance to their fire department, but they were actually asking for the light tower for for use in their ice problems down in Kent. So Jim went down last night with that and delivered that to them. And we're lucky we're not in Kent at this particular time because it's a big mess.
Yeah.
So Terry Burke, I mean, we're sort of, I'm rambling here, but anyway, it's all connected because Terry Burke came in, so he's gone down to offer Kent if we have any other further assistance. Our emergency management director's going down there to see if we can be of further assistance the way the other towns help us out when we have problems, and that's a big deal down there. So
Do you know what the plan?
I don't know what the plan is. We were speculating what the plan
Do you,
might be.
I mean,
but-
does have any idea what the plan is?
They're gonna kind of play by ear with the weather and regroup now that it's frozen solid. It's gonna give them the time they need to make the decisions and try to come up with a plan.
It's still flowing underneath it, I assume.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of water.
I heard there's places it's 12 feet thick, so,
The jam.
the jam.
Yeah, because it's getting up near the top of that,
Yeah.
the bridge at 341 going over the river, and that's
Yes.
got to be 15
I went over
feet.
that today, and
Yeah.
scary to look out at.
Yeah, a lot of ice.
Mm.
So,
But gradual thaw coming, so I think that's what everybody's hoping.
yeah,
You got your glasses?
good.
Well, there's still 5,000 some CFS going down the river.
So, on to the budget stuff. So we have a printout, so this is, I have this one here. You have on your budget sheet there.
This is from last
Right, so
meeting.
we should look under line 60,011, there's highway administration.
You have copies of that one, is that?
Maybe it'd be
is
good,
that
Joyce,
easier?
yeah, these are
Easier.
bigger print for
Highway garage.
Oh,
Our-
thank you.
easier reading. Yeah, so we have the operating budget, which is that series, and then we have some capital stuff. So Jim, is there anything you want to tell us big time, globally, overall? I mean, you do a great job
I think.
doing what we're
overall,
doing with
Yeah,
not
I-
huge resources.
A few years ago, I thought we were, behind, my vision of where I wanted to be. But, over years, I've been here 30, 31 years, and every year it's been an increasing gain.
Thank you.
We're moving forward every year, and I saw it a lot this summer, that we're gaining, and I think another 2 rough years of reclaiming, paving. The bridges are we're gonna be in pretty good shape, hopefully in a couple of years with the bridges. So I think in 3-4 years, I'm gonna be able to take our paving program and go to just shimming and covering more ground and making the current roads a little less bumpy. And that's gonna help us a lot financially. We're spending quite a bit of money every year in asphalt and oil, so yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. I think the path we're going is a good one. I'd like to stay on it.
Good. So we went through our operating budget at the highway. The left-hand column there, the actual, was how much we spent last budget season. The year-to-date is how much we spent, basically a half year of this current year, ending on the 8th of January. And what we're looking at is filling in the blanks for their proposed budget. Barbara has filled in the overtime and the regular labor expense, which is mostly contractual. So the other figures, sort of from garage heat to drug testing, we generally felt we could keep those ones the same as they had been.
I have one question.
Yes.
Somebody
questions.
wrote under 616 contracted, so what is, I can't read that writing before the 32,000.
What does it say? Why high? That's my.
Oh, why high?
Why high HI. I
Okay.
didn't, yeah, that's shorthand. So Jim and I want to know how we spent so much money out of that line. And what we did was we took three major things out of there, which was some of the bridge repair for Valley Road, the oversight, I think some of Roger's fee came out of there, but most importantly, when we did the bridge study, when we had Leonard Engineering survey all the bridges, that came out of there, and also we had an engineer design the new crosswalk for Cornwall Bridge. So that's why when we appropriated approximately $20,000, we spent 32, because we knew that we had those two other projects and those seemed like a good place to put it. And I think we were able to be under on some other things like fuel and oil and some other temporary labor, some other categories which made up for those overages with being under on a couple things. So two areas we thought of increasing. Already you can see if we go down below the labor lines into the highway signs and the road materials and the snow removals, to date we spent $21,000 on snow removal, which is pretty remarkable. Some of the reasons that's so low is we make our own sand out of the gravel pit, but we still have some on hand, even though we've had 12 storms already. 13 counting tonight. Last year we had 17 total.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we have in our shed right now will last 5 storms.
Really?
So before we have to spend any more money. on
Sand and salt, you're saying?
Yeah, we still have a good amount at the gravel bank ready to go.
So that's a remarkably low number. So that's how we're able to do a lot of other things, because we don't spend as much on that, and it seems so far things are holding up pretty well in that category. So unfortunately the trees are not holding up as well as the salt supply. So we thought we'd increase the tree maintenance line from $18,000 to $23,000.
Oh,
So that would be an increase just on that Bald Mountain Road itself. Especially the ash trees are dying off very quickly. So when
Is 23 going to be enough?
well, we hope to parlay some things with the power company,
Okay.
and then we can do a few ourselves, some ourselves. So we'll find out.
Jim, in terms of the tree maintenance, are you able to get between Fred Scoville and Mike Root, I'm not sure who else you're using, to come in and do the work that you request them to do?
Yeah, we're still doing the most important. We got a tree that was near falling on someone's house last week, and everybody's relieved that's gone.
Yeah. Want to get ahead of those.
So currently the way it is when there's a storm, it's going to actually help us, because with the snow on the ground, the tree crew is available to come help us. So because it discourages them from being in people's yards. So so I'm looking to do some more towards the end of this week and try to amp it up a little bit in the foreseeable future. So I have about 6 trees right now that are in pretty good threat that need to come down within the next couple of weeks.
So one thing that has been a problem is as I said last meeting, we had problems with one truck that had motor problems, and that may turn out to be more expensive than we first thought, because the motor was more heavily damaged. So we've had, so we'll get bills on that, and again, we should be able to cover that with our contingency fund. But my feeling was we got several prices, or Jim got several prices on the repair. It was hauled to a shop which does a lot of our work in Torrington. And the thought was, as we're in January, that we needed also to, because tore the engine apart to see how much to fix. They've given us an estimate of that. We got some other quotes, but it also, we felt that it was important to get the thing put back together. And so it may run us around $20,000 or so to fix that, which is more than we'd spent when we've done similar work before, but there was more damage to the motor. But we're back on our spare truck, and with the weather patterns being the way they are, continue to be, whatever it is, that I felt it's important that we get back up to full strength to keep the highways going. So we hope to get that back next week, maybe?
Yeah, parts this week and repairs next week.
Right.
So we're gonna stay with,
Merle is now Nutmeg.
Yeah.
we're staying with Nutmeg
They had
too?
already been close to 2,000 into taking it apart, so that factored into the other quotes I had gotten, because they would have put the parts in the van and
I mean, even though they've changed the name, it's still the same people in the shop and
pretty
stuff?
much, yeah. Yeah.
Is there a warranty on that when they get
There
finished?
is a 1 year
1 year.
parts and labor.
Right. So anyway, that will hopefully be this year's big event, but we've had the repair line at $40,000 as long as I can remember, which is at least a couple of years. So I think we're also finding anybody that buys auto parts probably knows that the prices of parts has gone up recently. Generally, certainly it's gone up in the last 5 years, so I think we should increase that to 45,000.
Even general maintenance, just all the
Yeah.
whole cost of all of it.
And, it's
And the requirement to
well
go,
worth it.
don't you have to go regularly to have,
Right.
for the DOT?
Yeah, I get yearly federal inspections, which is not, it's a little more, they go a little more, they check all the lights and they really go through it to make sure everything is on a more federal level, and I get the certificate for that.
Isn't there one more regularly than that though too, for the brakes and,
What's that?
is there a more regular inspection requirement?
No, it's an annual.
I mean,
And,
okay.
but we do it, we also have, like you would for an oil change on your car, a timeline of getting these things done. So, depends on how often the truck is used. Mine's used lesser than others, so it doesn't get done as often, as much as the one that's used all the time, type of thing. So
Right.
we keep an eye on it. Mileage is written down on the windshield.
So that's the operating budget. So I would make a motion that we adopt it similar to last year, although increasing the tree maintenance and the repair lines by 5,000 each. So is there a second to that?
Well, I'll second that. I have another, as long as we're looking
Yeah.
at this, which is what we're doing, the OT, the overtime labor
Right.
expense.
Yep.
We're dramatically lower at this point, which there must not be a couple of turns that have come in from some storms.
There may be some.
This is primarily the snow plowing going out on the weekends or holidays
Yeah.
and stuff.
You can't beat our temporary labor at $664.
Right, I mean, that's,
So that's pretty frugal. That's for 60 cents a mile or something. So, yeah, we have a fairly frugal approach to overtime, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, last year I was out with my operations, so
Right.
our guy that does contracted services was covering for me.
Right,
So you have to minus that manpower
right.
for last winter. So
So most of our storms, though, even though there's been a lot of them, they haven't been blizzard conditions, with maybe one exception. So we've been able to do a standard rotation of getting things sort of in good shape by dinner time, going home and coming back early in the morning. So we don't work all the way through the evening the way some other organizations do. But it seems like with these smaller storms, we have to do that, get things in good shape, and then that's also a savings of not racking up the overtime. So that's sort
Yeah,
of
and
why
it's a
we're,
much more prudent approach to spending money.
right. And
Yeah.
some other places call people in before it starts snowing, but I think also this time here people are sort of used to the thing, it's gonna snow, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I was out tonight. I did East Cornwall and monitored what we had done earlier, and then took my results and factored in with the other. I called Jack and asked him how aggressive he was, and he thought he was comfortable with tonight with what he had down. So the sand and salt's underneath the snow, and it's kind of coming down, hit and miss.
And so tomorrow you start at 5 or what time?
5.
5,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
School, no school?
Probably.
No school.
No school. Yeah, for people it's amazing. You find out who's working different hours by their tracks, I guess.
Right.
Yeah,
So we're talking about having the OT labor stay at 16 with a 3% increase built into it. Question, you talked about in the contracted service that Roger, some of Roger's
was
fees,
out of here.
expenses.
Now
Are we
that,
gonna move that to the?
yeah,
Okay,
yes, now that we have a bond, he's getting paid by,
right.
by the big one.
What was the other question? Garage repairs. These may be some of the buildings, I guess, as garage building repairs. Are we
Yeah.
sort of looking in a different place for monies
Major
for?
stuff. This is just sort of minor.
This is the
But we
minor
are
stuff.
we're gonna paint the garage, so that will come out of the capital.
Capital, okay, well, I
Building
just want,
repair, which
sort of
we are.
know,
We are amping up, so we are, yeah, so that's an example of how there's money in other places.
different
That's how we
buckets.
can hold
right,
this down.
it's probably in the capital.
Right.
Well, I have a question, and
Yes.
it's just education for me, I guess. But reading this total highway administration line, it looks like the approved budget is only 2,000 more than the actual. But when you jump over, the year-to-date was 208 and you're proposing 261. So it seems to me that it's more than 2,000. I'm confused.
Oh, so the only thing in the proposed budget to get up to 261,
Yeah?
the only thing that's there is the labor expenses. You see the bold print?
Yeah?
They're the 16, the 239,
Yeah?
255 plus 6. So the only thing that's in there for a whole year budget is
Is
the
those
labor.
two items.
So in order to get an apples to apples, we have to fill in all these blanks that we've just been talking about.
Okay, yeah,
And then the 208 is only a half year budget. So that's why,
okay.
so they're not the same thing.
This 435 is the actual of last,
Last year,
right? And-
yeah.
And this year we approved 437 and have spent so far 208.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
So generally,
So we really haven't completed the figure for 2019.
no,
Okay.
no, and that's
And that's
we're
where
just
I'm getting
beginning to
to.
start,
Okay.
and then as this goes on, you'll get more complete readouts.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So then we have on to the capital.
So
Oh.
are we looking at putting all these basically the same as
Yeah.
before? Is that
Right.
where we're going on this?
Realizing that no 2 years is the same, but we may have more overtime and less oil or something.
Have you been using the reuse oil? What I can't think of the waste oil?
Not so much. Our furnace has been, it's very sentimental, and we're still learning all of its quirks. And we're getting feedback from other people that they're very high maintenance, so,
The waste oil one.
right. Some of the byproduct ash gets caught up in it, and so they need someone to really stay on them every week. You have to go through it, clean it, vacuum it out. So this is all new stuff that we're learning. So we're trying to get educated and figure out how to make this thing do its thing. And in the meantime, we had given oil to Warren for their furnace, because we had too much oil. And now we're caught back up, and Fred worked on the furnace the other day, and we think we're ready to
Try it again.
hopefully get this thing. You couldn't turn your back on it. If it was cold out, you couldn't rely on it because it would shut down and you'd walk into a cold shop. And with the recent cold snap, we couldn't take that chance.
Yeah.
So,
So did we vote on that motion?
You did.
Yes.
So, anyway,
You made the
so,
motion, Richard seconded it.
okay, so we're increasing 2 lines. And any more discussion about the 2 lines of the operating budget? All those in favor?
Aye.
So now we're into capital budget, and we have a copy of the 5-year plan. So the main things we're talking about with the highway department is the $300,000 for the road improvement. It's in that chart.
This chart?
Yeah, that's so that has all the capital things. And those are the big projects that can take more than 1 year, so they're segregated out, and that's the capital plan. This is what was presented and approved by the plan by the town in the fall. And so we come back this year and start actually talking about spending the money. So so we had in there for the highway department 300,000 for roads and bridges, mostly East Cornwall. And the second one was a payloader, which is down there, 95,000. So it will be an interesting budget year, just going ahead as we're talking about big numbers, because we believe our assessment to the high school is going to be up by about $200,000 because we've maintained the amount of high school students, but every other town has decreased. So even though we have a declining elementary school, we've been sending more or the same amount of kids to the high school. So anyway, so that's just for 1 year. It's going to be our year to go up. And also we learned yesterday, going ahead at our council governments meeting, met with the Commissioner of Transportation from the state, and the state transportation fund is out of money. So they are not going to give us our second spring installment for the town aid road, and so that'll be about over $100,000 reduction in state aid, and unless the legislature puts more money into that next year, they will eliminate it altogether, which would be a $200,000 hit.
Yeah,
So budgeting,
That's for us is the big.
that was our last big amount of state aid.
That was always the big one anyway. wasn't it?
Yeah, well, at one point the school aid was comparable, but that went. So, I mean, what you're looking at is a $400,000 change to the worse for the budget for next year. So it's going to be interesting how it all looks bad when we start, but it's looking like it looks like a $200,000 loss in revenue from the state, and which we budgeted for this year. So we will have to dip
we're gonna
into
lose
savings.
100.
We could lose 100. I'd be surprised if the legislature is going to come up with more money.
Is this
Maybe they
all
will.
all towns are
All
losing
towns,
their
yeah.
second payment?
Yeah,
Is that what we're saying?
correct.
How much money statewide?
It's like 40 million maybe statewide. Not a big deal, but apparently their state transportation fund is in the red for the first time in years. So they can't, if it's in red, they can't bond to do other construction projects. So there's basically they're shut off, to use a bar term. So, so that's a big problem for them and for us, because it just means more local property, more things get put back on the local property tax that used to get paid by the state. So you've got a loss in revenue and an increased expense before anything else even gets factored in. So I think it will be a austere year for the Board of Finance. But we've had good success with our paving programs. We're online for $300,000 next year, mostly East Cornwall. And then there's a couple roads you want to redo,
Correct. Allen Road,
right?
Yelpin Hill, 50% of Everest and Essex, Ballyhack Road, and probably sections of Flat Rock where we have washouts. But that's pretty much it. Then we'll go into the shimming
After that.
future. I think the condition of most of the roads will be pretty much upgraded by then.
Okay, so some of it's asphalt, some of it's sealing,
Right.
some of it's spring, some of it's summer. Just try to keep things.
Yeah, and
Holding
also South Road. I'd like to get
South
that
Road.
done. So
Yeah,
Which road?
South Road.
South Road.
So
right.
I think just looking into the crystal ball, if I was to do South Road, I could probably do South Road and Everest and Essex in 1 year. That would probably be all the money I would have. And then Yelpin Hill, Allen Road, Ballyhack another year. So that's why I was saying you're looking at 2-3 years to upgrade everything, and then it's just going to be maintenance, which Cogswell takes some of the, some of those roads that you drive on that, they help us in the wintertime cleaning the snow too. All those pockets, we can fill those in with asphalt.
So, I think he's made very good progress bringing some of these roads that were barely drivable several years ago back into good condition. So I think that's a reasonable number based on what we've been doing. And then Jim's been looking at this is the second year of putting money in for a new payloader, and we've gotten some state bid numbers
Correct.
and stuff on that.
And it's increased since last year when I started. We had the screening for the sand for this year, which we were involved with for over a month. So that was, I figured, the perfect time to demo payloaders. So I contacted Caterpillar, and the fellow told me that, he says, I'll tell you right now, we're going to be $20,000 more than John Deere, who has state bid. So they never brought me a machine. Volvo brought me a machine, but we found it to be too bouncy, and he wants to bid, but he said that he's going to be a little more expensive. So I think he just wants to, be in the playing field. The John Deere was phenomenal. I ran it, Fred Scoville ran it, Buddy Hilbert ran it. We were all, had no problems. It didn't bounce. It had the power. It's a little bigger than what we have now. I measured it. I can't remember off the top of my head the distance, the length. I think it's 20 inches longer, a little higher, but we could fit it in our back building. But I want to have a little something stronger, but also I need something stronger for the gravel bank doing the process, because now it's going to be a one machine operation instead of two, so that one machine has to do extra work. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy. The number, like I said, it came in at 178. I think we have possibly, if things go the way they are, 170 plus the trade-in, which
Right.
should put us where we need to be.
Is it worth keeping the other one around?
Well, right now it has either a transmission or a hydraulic problem. So when you're backing up, it keeps hesitating. The fluids are all there, but we've been busy using it. At some point, we're probably going to have to get some kind of diagnostic on it, but those things are usually, kind of a shock when you get the sticker price on, a hydraulic pump or a transmission repair job.
Yeah.
But it's 17 years old, and it's mowed our roadsides. It's done a lot of work, so.
Well, the bigger machine, with the bigger machine that you're talking about, a size bigger, maybe two sizes bigger?
They, cost-wise,
Well, not so much the cost. I mean, the cost will be whatever it is. The larger machine will have more power, be able to do more things without getting tired. But I'm just trying to think, is there something that will be mowing the roads be more difficult? Will there cause problems because it'll be too big to get into some places?
Oh, we wouldn't be able to mow the roads with it, so that.
At all?
The problem with that is the mower that we have only fits a small payloader like the one we have. The current payloader we have isn't sufficient to do the gravel process. So it just doesn't, it doesn't have the power to dig
So,
into the.
okay, so how would we solve, then we need to come up with another mower, because we use 2 mowers typically, right?
Right.
To do the,
Yeah. So the thought originally was to keep the payloader just for the mowing purpose.
right, well, that's kind of,
But if it has this underlying issue,
yeah, that's, yeah.
you know, so, and, you know, we're seeing on auction sites with municipalities some pretty good prices on mowing tractors in the $20,000 range, 20, 25,000 for, you know, a used one, but, you know, you go and you know, they keep good service records and you just shop around and you can probably find something pretty good.
Would that be something we would want for, I mean, if we're talking about getting this for this coming budget year, you'd want it for this summer to be able to mine the, to do
Yeah,
the-
we were so tied up last year that we pretty much had just one mower going. It went nonstop through the summer.
the smaller one.
Yeah, the Ford tractor. And that was bought used.
Right,
For,
15 or something.
yeah, and
Right.
it's been great. I mean, we've had a few wear and tear problems, but
No, I don't have a problem buying something used.
Oh, right,
right.
Yeah, I'm just
yeah.
saying, I'm trying to figure out the timing of it. You'd want to get the new machine to be able to make sand for during the summer or fall, I
Right.
guess, right? I mean, is
Right.
that
Yep.
when you get the screener?
Yeah, and to run the current mower that payloader has, you have to have a Caterpillar because of the transmission. It's so you can actually mow in
Move?
and move, yeah. John Deere and Volvo, you can't do that. So
So we think we can get through for a while with one mowing tractor, and then
Right.
we'll see how the budget process works
yeah,
itself
yeah,
out, and we
yeah,
get a good deal, like we did with our pickup truck. We'll find some
I mean,
money
the time to,
make
the
it
time to
happen.
change or trade in the vehicle is just before. That's the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so then, at this point then, we'd put in 300,000 for the road repair and 95,000 for the payloader.
So does that, back to the payloader pricing, does that give us enough money for what you're getting for possible soft
yeah, they were
bids?
supposed to come this week and just give me a heads up of what currently they thought it was worth, but you know, we had the holiday yesterday.
Not the trade, I mean, what the soft bid would be on the new one.
Pardon?
What are we looking at for the new one, though? Not so much the trade, not the trade-in, but we're looking at you're pricing a new John Deere.
Right.
Do we have enough money? Are we budgeting enough money to make it happen, I guess is the
Should,
question.
Yeah, so he's coming in at 178.
Right.
Okay, so this is still a solid, I say, what year is it? It's 18. This bid is still the state DOT
Right.
bid.
And one, on these prices, one of them shows on the bottom line, I think there's $1,000 difference.
178,
And
can't-
sorry about that.
179.
Yeah, so that I gotta talk to him about, but I didn't worry about it currently because we're not close there yet, so. But it's on my mind to speak
Right.
to him about that. I don't know if you wanna look at that.
So with this, we should have, right now with 95, we'd be up to 170 plus we're trading in, so we should get, we think 10 or something for the trade anyway, 10, 20,
Yeah, I'm hopeful for 15 to 20.
yeah. And then whatever we have left over, we put towards the mowing tractor. To start.
Is this bid still good, though? Because this is a year old.
Yeah, that's just for budget purposes. Oh, that bid there?
Yeah, it says January 5th, 2017. Is that
I
just
think he must have got the year wrong. Because he gave it to me on the
He's
6th.
trapped,
He
he's
gave
trapped
it to
in,
me January 7th, so,
Oh, okay, so that, yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's
It
good.
meant,
I'll
it meant
correct
for
on
it to
that,
be
so.
Yeah, he made it to
2018.
be, yeah, okay, that's fine, I understand that. That's why I said the bid's a year old, but
no, it's not.
the same thing here.
What does NJPA mean?
The national, it's kind of a municipality or a discount type of
Okay.
government discount.
Because that first one, that four-wheel loader, I mean, that's a gigantic discount. $90,000 plus.
Right.
It says here, in the letter here, it says that is pleased to extend to the town of Cornwall the government discount, which is 40% off the list price of the base machine,
Wow, okay.
and any factory installed options.
Nice.
That's where the manufacturer suggested retail price doesn't mean a lot. Because if you're paying that for the machine,
Yeah,
you're probably paying too much.
yeah.
Okay, so we all good on 300,000 for roads and 95 for a payloader?
90 or 95?
95. What did I say? 95.
There you go.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anything else for Jim?
Is there a second on that? You want to second it?
Sure.
Pretty much, yeah. Any other questions for Jim? Going once, going twice. Okay.
Thank you very much,
for
Jim.
Hey, thank you.
digging into these things and keeping everything going.
All right. Have a good
Okay,
night.
all right, take care. Thanks for coming, Patricia.
Stay warm.
Okay, next is we have Bridges with Roger. Let's see, so you can give your update and I'll give my update.
Okay. You want to repeat that?
Sure. So, the only other thing I had about the gravel bank, we have in our bills a retainage fee for the surveyor to do the gravel bank
Right. Gary
bridge.
Hawk.
Yeah.
I've got a copy of an email from him saying that he had sent a proposal, to the selectman's office at the end of December, and is looking for a retainer check, and that they're ready to get started. It would have been good. It looks like this coming weekend is supposed to get quite warm again. So the snow that we're getting tonight and tomorrow may be gone again. This survey work is the physical location of the bridge, where you have to get elevation. There's a lot to locating the bridge, and from that you have to determine how deep the footings have to go and all that. So the survey work is the preliminary work necessary to do the pre-design. This bridge is, I expect it to be bid out as a design-build bridge. So the contractor that's going to build the bridge will do the design. The town's going to recommend a design very similar to the one on Flat Rock Road. It's about the same size water course. The town owns all the property around the bridge, so that the survey doesn't have to go very far. It's more for a location. And I think we have an estimate of $1,900 to do the survey work. So as soon as that's done, then Leonard will be able to do the preliminary engineering, so that we can then go to bid with the project. So that's the status of the gravel bank.
Will the survey site or locate the test borings in there too?
No, that has been, yeah, I'm sure they will locate them just to show them on the map, but we have a map of that. That was already done.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And we have a map showing where they are, just a location map, located from the existing bridge. So the surveyor, I will make sure that
Yeah,
he
that they're
locates,
placed, they're located on
yeah,
the
where
survey.
they were. The nice Well, I'll say the interesting thing about the test borings, they were virtually the same, and everything is a little bit different as far as how many feet down, how many inches down the soil changes and so forth. But basically, the fill at both locations is the same large stone rubble, so that you go through pockets of gravel and you hit boulders. There's neither location did they hit what they determined to be ledge. I think we did find a little ledge over on Flat Rock Road, but not enough to make an issue out of it. But primarily it's boulders, and it's also boulders at the gravel bank. So anyhow, I gave Joyce a copy of my notes here so that she can differentiate which one. I talked to Bill Charlton at Mohawk Northeast, and they were very pleasant about me asking them to do something for nothing. Which I asked them to give us a what they're referring to as a rough order of magnitude for the above captioned project, which is Smith Place. And at Smith Place, we talked about replacing the superstructure. We don't want to do anything to the foundation of the bridge. Part of the project will include repointing the walls there on both sides. There's some missing stones, so stones will be mortared back in, but that's not really, I hate to say that it's not structural because you could take issue with that. It's not really significant because it's just really patching up a stone wall. That whole channel has been stoned. Their design build replacement of the superstructure for Smith Place is $140,000.
That's good.
That's good. There are, depending on what other issues are brought up at the time we asked for a bid. Again, I'm just asking, typically, without going out there and doing a lot of work, can you give me a order of magnitude?
A ballpark figure.
A
We can't-
budgeting
Yeah, we
figure.
can't hold our feet to the fire on
Right.
that number, but it gives you, it's not 350.
So now,
Yeah.
if this is the gravel bank bridge,
No,
We're
that was the previous one.
Oh.
Gravel bank is the survey work.
oh,
Okay, that's $1,900 to do the survey. Then we can do the preliminary engineering and hopefully go to bid in the next 6 weeks or so. So Dave Batista at Lennard Engineering will do the preliminary engineering. So we have enough information to ask a contractor to go out and design a specific bridge for this location. And we'll have the location information and the capacity the bridge has to have. Not so much structural, but more hydraulic.
So at this point, to be clear, we think we also have a Board of Finance meeting, I think on Thursday night. So it'd be good to try to get our scope of what we're proposing organized tonight. So we think it's possible to do both the gravel bank and the Smith Place bridge this construction season.
Correct.
Right, so we're thinking about doing two very different bridges projects, but in a similar way that we would hire Lennard Engineering to do some engineering, preliminary engineering work, organize a specification, a bid specification together, and then we would go out to bid, and we could go out to bid again, hopefully within about 6 weeks.
Yes.
For both projects, with the idea that at least we don't really care when the gravel bank bridge is done, but we do care that Smith Place is done simultaneous to the
Covered bridge.
the covered bridge.
Well, that
or-
would be convenient.
Does
but
he? Yeah.
They said that it's probably not a big issue as far as they're concerned. We
Uh-huh.
talked about the logistics of it, and they would walk a machine across Smith Place before the demolition of the bridge. So they would have an excavator on both sides. Everything could be done under the existing utilities
Yeah.
without relocating utilities or taking them down. No need for a crane. They feel that the bridge is small enough that it could be removed by the excavator.
So what we're removing is all the blacktop or the asphalt,
Right.
the material below the asphalt, a
Now,
foot,
Material below the asphalt, just so that you realize how this bridge is built, it is asphalt, then it has a steel bridge pan, is what it's called.
so
It's
that's
a
all there is. There's nothing else. There's the asphalt and
bridge
then,
pan, and then the steel beams.
and the steel beams are staying.
No, the steel
steel-
beams have to go.
They're going too.
Right.
Okay. So the pan's going, the pan's the problem.
Well, right, the pan is just a corrugated, like
Right, right,
metal
right.
roofing, but very much
Yeah,
heavier.
yeah.
But that's rusted through, and that's really the biggest problem. That's what's causing the steel beams to rust as much as they have.
So the asphalt, the pan,
And the beams.
the beams, you touch up, fix.
But once that's removed, it's got to be essentially cut in half and loaded onto a flatbed truck.
Yeah,
It's
but that's,
only,
yeah, that's,
22 feet by 16 feet. We cut it longitudinally so that it'd be 8 foot by 20 feet. They feel they could pick that up, even if they have to even cut that into quarters, but they could load it onto a flatbed truck and take it away, thereby exposing the bridge seat. Now, for the replacement superstructure that I have in mind would be concrete, precast concrete, and it will be shallower. So now the bridge seat is going to come up a little higher. It's going to give you more waterway capacity under the bridge, and that bridge will be much more immune to the effects of dampness.
you're not talking about changing it that much though, 6 inches?
Well, we talked about that, and probably somewhere, and 6 inches is a lot.
In terms of capacity?
Yeah,
for
well,
water?
6 inches by 20 some odd feet,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, the cubic
Yeah, yeah,
footage
yeah,
adds up. So that they don't really know until they go out there and, you know, design the new superstructure, how much they're gonna have to change the bridge seat. That's why you want the contractor doing the design, in my opinion, so he'll know.
So the new bridge is gonna be 22 feet wide? Same thing, 20 feet? What was it?
It's exactly the same length, exactly
Oh,
the same width.
so it's 22 feet long,
Right,
16 feet wide.
right.
Would you, the new concrete
Superstructure.
superstructure that would come in and be, how would you get it in place?
Again, you just take it off a flatbed truck, swing it over with an excavator, put half down, put the other half down, and then it's tied together.
Two sections,
Right.
and you
Then
think
they're
they could
drawn
lift that
together.
up? They could lift up one of those with an 8 by 22?
Right.
It already, okay.
They'll know exactly what it weighs when they build it.
But, yeah, I
When
know.
they design it, really. So
Okay.
they'll have probably a bigger machine on the Route 128 side than on the, but that's just a guess on my part. They might do it the other way around. They can easily plate the bridge and walk something across it, then remove the plates. The plates just distribute the weight of the machine.
Sure.
So timing on this, I said we would do it at the same time we're doing the other bridge.
Right.
You said they didn't think it was a big deal. What is that?
Well, that was their comment, but just that, you know,
They don't,
they're not terribly concerned about that, but if it's convenient, that would be, I said from the town's point of view, the volume of traffic will be reduced when 128 is cut off from Route 7.
right,
So during that 29-day period, that's the target that we have in mind.
right.
And they said, okay, doesn't make a big difference, but okay, that's fine, they're willing to do that.
What is the did he go into what he thought the traffic impact would be? Would he be able to keep 2 lanes open or?
They have to put up, when I say permanent signing, a 24-hour-a-day signing in order to protect their machine.
Mm-hmm.
During the work hours, when trucks are coming in and out, they'll probably have to move it out toward the post office a little more, but they expect to be able to maintain 2 lanes of traffic.
Oh, really? Good.
During working hours?
Yeah, I
Really?
mean, you're gonna be encroaching on the other shoulder. You know, if they're backing a truck in or so forth, they may stop traffic for
Right.
Well, that may
couple
be
minutes.
that's the ideal, that they'll be able to
Right.
maintain 2 lanes of traffic, but it'd probably be 1 lane.
That's what's anticipated at
Yeah.
this point. And even in their letter, and Joyce has a copy of the letter, you know, this is what it would cost to do the engineering and construction and installation, $140,000.
So that includes the engineering.
Right. As,
Does not include the bridge. Is that includes the bridge? No,
yes,
of course that includes the
but
bridge.
what it doesn't include,
Yeah.
and they were kind of cagey about this, is the disposal of the old bridge. No problem disposing of the steel, because that has value, but it's the asphalt wrapped up in the steel decking. What can be done with that? And I said that I would bring that up tonight at this meeting. So
Our gravel bank?
well, that's for greater minds than mine to determine, but that's not included, the disposal of the bridge. What they have to do with the bridge would just be added on.
But that's not a major deal.
Not real big. Like I said, the steel, no problem, because it's got more than enough value to make it worthwhile for somebody to clean the steel,
Strip it.
you know, sell it for scrap.
Time, length of time from closing the bridge to completion?
Well, they felt they could do it within that 29 days. Again, they haven't designed it, they haven't really thought about it. I told them that it is probable that we would have a extended driveway down to the railroad depot so that traffic can go in and out that way for the duration of the bridge closure. But that we would want all this work done within that 29-day target that we have in mind. And they didn't think it was a problem.
So this would probably be a summer or fall project.
Right.
And the bridge, the days for closing the covered bridge are,
The day after Labor Day,
For a month.
right, the day after Labor Day and opening October 1st or something, whatever it is.
29 days later.
So that we're aiming for this to happen at the same time.
Correct.
Maybe they'll have they would place their machinery or
They're
start.
too far apart really to have any continuity of traffic.
Continuity of traffic.
I mean, as far as the traffic pattern closing the covered bridge, is just going to close the bridge.
No, I understand
You've got almost a quarter of a mile up to Smith Place.
Right, well, they may use different machines anyway, wouldn't?
Well, yes, it would be two separate projects, two separate budgets, two separate supervision. So-
Right. I'm just saying that they may mobilize their machinery before the actual closing day and park the machinery in across the bridge already and bring some equipment in before Labor Day. Maybe not.
Possibly.
Okay,
That's bridge number 2.
okay.
Bridge number 3.
Bridge number 3.
Oh, yes, bridge number 3, Fort Hill Road.
Okay,
I spoke with Jeffrey. Jesse, I think it is.
Jason. Isn't it Jason?
There we go, Jesse. Jason Deckard. He is the estimator for Painters USA, bridge painting estimate, so on and so forth. I talked to Craig Nichols. He's their marketing specialist actually, but he then turned me over to Jason Deckard, and he gave me a cost for budgeting purposes. Again, you know, they explained to him that all these jobs have to be bid and be competitively bid, but can they give me a ballpark figure? Again, without traveling out here, they're essentially, their main office is in Chicago, but they have offices all over the country, and they often hire what I will call subcontractors to do their small work, and this would be considered relatively small. Now, this bridge is about 30 feet long and about 20 feet wide. And he gave me a ballpark estimate of $150,000 to clean the bridge without sandblasting it. They would then prime it and paint it. I've asked for what materials they would be using. Again, this is all something that their engineers would have to determine after coming out and looking at the bridge. But typically, they feel a bridge that small, where they could put scaffolding in the brook, there's less than a foot of water in the water course. There's about 10 foot of clearance from the bridge to the bottom of the river. This is the Hollenbeck River. So there's plenty of room to work under the bridge. It's not like it's only 4 foot of clearance or something like that.
And that figure is with some level of required.
Containment, yes.
Yeah.
Containment enough to keep everything out of the water course. They wouldn't have to put in, I was talking to Gordon, said they have air handlers on some bridges where they have to completely make a tent and have negative air pressure, so they're drawing everything, including the air out, cleaning the air and discharging it into the atmosphere. That wouldn't be necessary in their opinion on something like this. They would just have to contain everything from the water course. But I was surprised that that was better than I expected. I talked to him today. They'd gotten my request and I think got put on the back burner for a little while. So I said I needed a number for tonight, so he gave me the $150,000. And we'll follow it up this week with an email confirming that. I'll give Gordon and Joyce copies when we get it. So that's bridge number 3 for tonight.
That's good. So are you thinking of doing 3 bridges this summer or 2?
Well, I'm not so sure about that. That one, the last time I had anything to do with painting a bridge is probably 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I would need to talk to some of the people I know over the DOT about what current standards are. I know there is a new state specifications for the construction of roads and bridges and so forth. It's all online now. So years ago they used to send you a copy that you had a hard copy to look at. Now if you want a copy, you print out whatever section you want. So I will talk to some people about that, but that's another one to possibly pursue. And if it is somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 to even $200,000, the funds might be available to do that in this current.
Well, we have another year to, this is a 3-year,
So we're a year and a half into that, I think.
Right, I'll check with Barbara to make sure, see if we have 2 construction cycles, seasons, whether we have 2 summers left or 1.
Okay.
So
I
I'll
think
figure
we
that
have
out.
2.
I think we should have 2. I think
So
the
if
last time was the first.
If we put this off a little bit further.
Right.
If we do the Smith Place and the gravel bank.
Right,
And see
that's-
what's left over,
Right,
then the next 2 would be Ford Hill and Lake Road.
right.
As far as my priority list.
I think I would like to say that I think we would be better off doing 2 projects with full thought. And the 3rd project that you're describing, you can have on the slow burner in the background, getting ready
Right.
for,
Well, should it become, this qualifies for federal funds. And if federal funds became available, there's talk of that, I don't expect anything to happen in the near future, perhaps a year from now, then if we could augment this, the federal funds would amount to 80%.
well, sure, that would be great.
Okay,
So I wouldn't really aim for anything this construction season.
right, okay, I think that's important to have that cleared. So then, we need to talk to the Board of Finance about getting going on the other 2 for the summer. And then we'll need Dave Batista to come up with a proposal on the bid specs. Do we have anything from him on how much he would charge to do some fluid engineering and bid specs?
No, I don't think we do.
So we probably need to get, isn't that?
He is willing and available to do it, but I don't think he's given us an estimate
Right,
to do that.
okay.
Now, what I would recommend we do is, again, it's going to be a design build type project, is have the bidders, it's going to reduce the number of people that are willing to bid on it because they have to do the engineering. I did talk to Town and Rel, they are
Yeah.
very interested in it. They will came up with an engineer. I told him we would expect the job to be very much in the nature of the Flat Rock Road specification. They
Right.
came up with some recommendations out on Flat Rock that I liked a lot better than what Cardinal had designed. So we did make some field adjustments out there.
Good.
So they're enthusiastically looking forward to it.
Good, and they might bid on Smith Place also or not?
I didn't talk to them about that. That is a little different in the sense that we're going to look for the superstructure to be constructed off-site. I don't know if they have they certainly would be invited to bid on it.
Right.
I shouldn't say
Yeah.
what their limitations might be. They would be invited to bid on it. I don't think they're aware of it yet.
But couldn't that superstructure be built at a concrete facility just as some of these other places, just the same facility that built the Flat Rocks Road Bridge? Would they build a superstructure
Not
like that?
typically, because this is a one-of-a-kind, it's a one-off bridge. Where what they build are cookie-cutter bridges. So they have molds and facilities to make, you tell me what size you need.
And
we'll make that
what
bridge.
the angle, what the length, what the width?
Exactly,
Yeah.
so we're looking for a custom superstructure replacement. It has
One
to go
shot.
on the existing bridge. See,
Right.
it's not a whole bridge, it's just the top part of the bridge.
Right. So they don't do something like that typically?
Not typically. I talked to Lake Sleep Pre-Stress, and they make what's called a T-beam, a double T-beam, which they use in overhead parking garages. When you go into a parking garage, you see these, you drive under these beams. Well, those are just 8 feet wide. So they thought maybe we could use 2 of those. And those only cost like $20,000 a piece. So that would be a big cost savings if a contractor said, okay, I can get 2 of these beams and, post-tension them after they're put in place and put the parapets on. It'd be an innovative idea, but I don't think anybody's going to do it. It's a possibility.
And then they need an engineer to sign off on it.
Oh, yes, absolutely, on any of these.
And still, again, we would use Leonard to verify their
Risks.
proposed
Verify
design.
their shop drawings.
Yeah.
So then tonight we should vote to ask Leonard to give us a work proposal for preliminary engineering bid specifications of those 2 projects and report our progress to the Board of Finance. Think of anything else we should be doing?
That sounds, unless we want to do this, the same type of preliminary engineering request for Smith Place.
Well, that's what I said. Yeah,
So Smith Place and Gravel Bank, that we would like just the preliminary engineering done by Leonard.
right. That both of these would be design build projects
Yes,
and they could even be bid at the same time or whatever.
yes, they could.
I mean,
They're not so closely related that you'd have the same people interested in them. So
Right.
I think they'd have to be 2 separate bids, but could be done at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean, just whatever. I mean, we want to sort of get it out there.
Right.
I mean, having these bid in the next 6 weeks would be good.
Yep.
I mean, shoot for 1st of March or something, right? I mean, have him concurrently, have his proposal be to do preliminary engineering bid specifications for these 2 bridges on a design build basis.
He'll probably need the same basic type of survey work done at
Right.
Smith Place as he's requested for.
Do we have a survey yet? We don't have a survey yet at Smith Place.
No, the same, I would assume he'd probably use Hawk at the same time. If you want to propose that to the Board of Finance or whatever's necessary, I would assume that the cost of the survey would be somewhere in that $2,000 range.
Right.
Be a little different for Smith Place because there are several varying landowners that are around that piece of property.
Right.
Right. So then also, just to go off in a separate related issue, We did get a couple of letters from residents of Smith Place concerned about alternate routes, alternate plans, other than repairing the bridge on Smith Place. And I did meet with Mary Lee, who lives on Railroad, on Railroad Street there, where we used for temporary access last time, and I met with Richard and Bianca Griggs, and we had a good meeting, walked around all the properties, and I think came to an agreement that it'd be pretty tight to reconfigure the road because of the locations close on a permanent basis. It would be tight to relocate the roads because of proximity to buildings, lights, traffic lights and stuff, or vehicle lights and vehicles being close to buildings. Also where some of the septic systems is tight, and water lines and stuff. So water supply. So those are all valid reasons to not change the setup as it is now. Plus, again, taking into account resident opinion. Mary Lee was fine with us doing a temporary road access in back of her building where we'd done it before, and again explained it had to be probably maybe some trees cut or some widening there, but she was fine with that. And so I think that's sort of the direction that we're going in at this point.
I definitely think we need to do the Smith Bridge.
Do the bridge, not
Yeah.
because it's up to the people to give us permission, and they had valid reasons
Yep.
to say keep it the way it is now the best we can, and with hopefully these new cost estimates, hopefully won't be as expensive as we first thought. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do it that way, because it'd been tight if we tried to rebuild a road in people's backyard or front yard.
What do we need, what does the town need, if anything, for the temporary?
So that's also, I think we probably should, if not survey, have some sort of site plan or locate on a map some temporary easement that Mary can give us over her property, right?
Yes.
And then, you're right, some kind of survey and elevation to make a determination what needs to be done to make that actually feasible, not a
Right.
not a topsoil road.
Right. Well, I can talk to Dave Batista about, doing that as part of the preliminary engineering,
Right.
and get an estimate on that one, including the survey work.
Is that something that the town would
Well, that
create and build?
probably
prior
would be
to the-
more cost effective than hiring a contractor.
Or making it
such
part
as-
of the bid?
It could be done either way. I think it would be more cost effective and a little, because I'm going to guess that whatever we put in, we're gonna have to take out. So if we do
Maybe.
it ourselves with our new loader,
Well, the question is whether you,
Yeah, I think we could.
I don't have to mow it. That's how I mow it.
the question is whether
Well-
you need an excavator to do it, though, to actually do the,
I don't think it's that much.
yeah, I don't, like, I think that a lot of it, if I had to do it, I could probably do it with a good sized loader, back blade, and just essentially put in a gravel driveway.
Right.
And it's only going to be there for a few months, then you're
Right.
gonna have to go back and take it out.
No, I think there's a good chance they're gonna let us leave it there just because it is Mary said it was her understanding that this is sort of like an emergency access if they needed to get up there. I don't think she has a problem with us if we upgrade it and make it.
Okay.
as long as you have it so that the,
It's
behind her building, whatever coming off the
Right.
hill
Yeah.
is pitched.
deal with the water and everything else, but as long as we do it well, I think would be amenable to that, and it might be a good thing to have in our back pocket, even though we could, I don't think we, legally would have it would just be for temporary access as needed or whatever.
And she'd give us a temporary rate,
Right.
through construction.
Yeah.
Is it just, would we end up on her property then?
It would be on her property, would be the impacted property, because already those people have some sort of right to use the Costello's property, because they already, in order to get to their houses, they go through that essentially the same area.
Right.
Just approaching it from the north instead of the south.
And down on Railroad Plaza, what does it come down to?
It's all Mary,
It's all Mary all the way?
Yeah.
I just can't remember that the map.
at least according to original maps. Okay, what do you think, local property owner?
I approve, I mean,
Yeah, I think everybody's
sorry.
on the same page.
I think
Pretty
it's
much.
great, you know.
Yeah.
And I won't have to, because I mow Mary Lee's lawn, and I go up and mow that behind there. So
Oh,
if there's a road back there,
yeah,
it's fine with me.
you won't miss it.
I don't miss it, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so then we'll need, I'll make
Need to make a motion?
Yes. So I'll make a motion that we get a work proposal from Leonard Engineering to do preliminary engineering and bid specifications for design build replacements of the Smith Place Bridge and Gravel Bank Bridge for work this summer, and that we report our progress to the Board of Finance this week.
I second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
So
Okay.
we get work proposals from Leonard for preliminary engineering and bid
Yep.
specifications for design-built bridges for Smith and Gravel Bank,
Correct, and report to the Board of Finance.
and report to Board of Finance.
And we need to approve Hawk for surveying? Do we already do that at the last meeting, or do we have
We've
to
got a
do?
request for a check, essentially.
Right.
He's gonna work for the town directly rather than from Leonard.
Right, we already hired him, we just had to send him his check tonight,
Oh, okay,
so we're good, and then whatever,
Then if I can, if Leonard then says, okay, I'm gonna need the same type of information
Right.
for Smith Place, we'll
we'll
just
move them.
extend.
Yeah, we'll extend it. Yes, I think we do need to, because,
right,
yeah.
I'll talk to, if the board agrees, I will talk to Dave Batista at Leonard about all this.
right. Right, okay. So we voted, we're
One
all,
of the checks is already here for Hawk, is that right?
yeah, for the gravel bank,
Okay.
They were Leonard.
yeah. So it's our understanding that Roger will get some surveying details for us.
Correct.
Okay,
And if it's necessary to do Smith Place, we're authorizing that to happen. Yes? Are we authorizing that to happen, or do we need a meeting?
what do you mean to have, the surveying?
For Hawk to do the second piece? Or
Uh,
do we want a bid to come back to us again?
or a quote?
Yeah, how about a quote, I'll ask him.
We'll get a
to-
quote,
Go
hopefully
ahead,
within
do-
2 weeks, he'll give us also, yeah, so we'll also,
Gravel Bank and give us an idea what it would take to do Smith Place.
Right,
Office.
including
Dave has to
survey.
tell Hawk really what he needs, and Hawk can then say, okay, it's gonna cost
Right.
another $1,900 or whatever it is, maybe a little bit more because we're talking about the driveway.
The second driveway,
So
Right.
the survey work,
temporary.
it's amazing how fast it goes nowadays compared to what it was when I was in the
Surveying,
close to
Yeah.
6 years ago.
That's quotes for Smith and Gravel Bank, those two places.
Right. Gravel Bank should be very easy because it's all town property and it's very open. The Smith
Nobody
place
lives
would be a
there.
little bit more-
So no further action on Ford at this point then?
No,
No, I will get a better estimate and, give it to the board and we can decide what we want to do. I still think, once we get this estimate, it might be worthwhile to at least file for federal funds. Should they be looking for what they call
Shovel-ready,
shovel-ready
mm.
projects, we would have this on the shelf that we could say, okay, we want to paint Ford Hill Road, and it's only going to be a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
It might be if we can get 80% of that, that much the better. Not likely, but a theoretical possibility.
Okay. All right. Okay, anything else on bridges? So I'll let you know, I'll confirm, but I think the Board of Finance is meeting on Thursday night.
If you want me around.
Yeah, that'd be good, just, 'cause we have
Give me a
to-
holler.
yeah, so just plan on that and issue here. So that'll be here Thursday night, Board of Finance,
What time?
7:30.
You want me to plan on being here at
Yeah,
7:30?
because we have to go, we'll go through, because this is major expenditures for the year, and then before we get into our whole budget sessions, it'll be good just to tell them this is what we're doing, so they can have an idea of what's happening. Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Roger.
See you
Thanks,
Thursday.
Roger.
You bet.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have greening news from Sustainable Connecticut. Kate Fargang is proposing that we pass a resolution. I think, have you all seen the paperwork on all this?
Yeah, for the greening news.
Right.
There wasn't anything, and you emailed this all to us,
Right.
a couple of varying copies.
Yeah, so that.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay, so she'd like a resolution. Everybody's got a copy of that?
I have a copy of the greening news.
Right,
yeah.
here's a copy of the resolution.
That was page 8 of that.
Of the bigger.
I think we should probably do it.
Okay, is that a motion to
I
pass?
make a motion that we pass a resolution supporting our Cornwall's participation in the Sustainable Connecticut Municipal Certification Program.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good, so I'll call Kate and tell her what we're up
Yeah.
to.
I think I'll write that into the minutes, that the whereases and whatnots and whatnot.
Right,
That's what
Okay.
we need
Glad we
for
didn't
the-
have to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I'm glad we didn't have to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
the whereas. So, next, it's a little bit, it's related because some of this research was energy audits that were done by the Energy Task Force. We are working on a bid to insulate the West Cornwall Firehouse, do some of the preliminary carpentry electrical work that's necessary before we can blow in insulation, so there should be a bid coming for our next meeting on that. And then there's also a program to upgrade the heating system there. We have a furnace that needs to be replaced, oil tank needs to be replaced, and Lisa Keskinen met with the firehouse committee and myself and has given us a letter of agreement that I think I sent
Yes,
on
you
to
sent it
you.
out to us, yeah.
And she's actually volunteering some of her time, which is
Yeah.
very nice of her.
Very, very nice one.
So, as we said at the last meeting, there is no, currently there is no actual drawings of the complete building, as it was built, design build on a piece of graph paper, very economically, 40 years ago, and it's doing fine, but it's probably good to have as we're redesigning some of the layout, it's good to have something that's up to date that shows the contractors, the department, and ourselves what we're actually proposing to do in this scale drawing. So I would make a motion that or somebody can make a motion that I can sign this letter to engage Lisa Keskinen, architect, to help work on the West Cornwall Firehouse.
I'll make a motion that Gordon signed the letter of agreement with Lisa Kiskanen for the designing of improvements at our West Cornwall Firehouse.
I'll second that, but is the proposal that she's offering is to actually first determine what's there.
Correct?
Yeah,
Right.
That's the main thing.
that's
she's
what
doing.
she's saying.
That's the main
yeah.
thing,
That's
and then the second page will be putting the proposed changes also on the same footprint. The footprint is the same, some interior changes and mechanical
The proposed changes as presented by the board,
committee,
the committee,
right?
and then she has to determine whether in fact that'll fit.
That will fit, that will work, and
Right.
it probably will, but it's just a question of having it on an understandable platform as
Oh,
opposed
no,
to
you have to have, you
a
actually have
chalk
to, draw it
board.
on. Yeah.
So anyway,
Or you
I
can be
think it
3
makes
inches
sense.
off on something.
right, and it may not fit once you get everything there, so.
Is the plan to insulate prior to doing all of this?
Yeah,
Because the insulation areas, most of them will not be
it'll be
affected
in the
by,
ceiling.
are gonna be in the main,
It's gonna be the whole building's roof, the whole building's ceiling. So there's 3 different compartments, 2 in the bays, 1 over the main rooms.
is there any insulation over the base?
yeah.
now?
There is, it's like 6 inches of fiberglass, something like that. You know, it's
So
1970.
the proposals that
One's in the ceilings and the other one's gonna be on the ground level.
moving
so-
walls around,
Mhm.
but not changing anything dramatically, but possibly because you'll be moving the heating system around.
Right, but it'd be very minor,
The heat won't be up there though, in the attic.
right? So there'll be, I would assume we'd get this insulated before. We're not gonna redo the heating until the summer.
You're not gonna do any of the changes till the
Right.
summer anyway.
But we'll
yeah.
probably get some bids because we would need to incorporate this project, including moving the oil tanks and all that stuff, into our next year's capital push. Okay? So, anyway, couple projects simultaneous. Biggest, the work, basically there hasn't been much work done other than paint there since it was built in 1975, so it's doing all right. So, we got a motion, we got a second, any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. So, we'll keep you informed on that. Next, we have the Cornwall Conservation Trust request. So I did update, we had some questions at our last meeting about what land are we actually talking about, and there's actually 3 contiguous lots that are owned by
Couple of different
a
entities.
couple different entities, LLCs, CVA Valley, CVA Everest LLC. LLCs are owned beneficially by Alphonse Fletcher. So, this is what
One,
they're basically talking
two,
about. So this
three.
town owns this property here.
The town owns.
This is
Footfields,
Footfields,
yeah,
so
yeah.
we are in the neighborhood. Then you have Duke Bezzosi in here somewhere. The Horners. I think Lib Tobin is here. Benjamin's on this side.
Mhm.
So,
But are you dealing with the bank? Because I'm not sure that Buddy Fletcher owns it anymore.
I don't know so this would be actually bought by the Conservation Trust.
So this is the state, this is all part of the forest here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So where's the trail? The trail, is this the barn? Which one's old?
It's over here. It's way over here. This would be.
This is Jewel. No, it's not that far. I think that's the
Okay.
barn. That's the barn, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, that could be the barn.
That looks like we're going up school. Is that
Right, okay.
Is that right?
Footfield.
Yeah, because maybe that's
Yeah. Jewel Street.
Cheney and then the one next to it.
That might be the actual trail there going
Right, that's
By
it. Right, that's what I was trying to
Mickey's
figure out.
house. Up into there.
Right, the trail crosses, I'm not even sure whose property this is.
That could be Coltswood Valley. The association owns a lot of the stream bed.
So they're talking about, I mean, that would be the best thing about having this access on Route 4 there. And running some trails to come up and maybe moving it out of here. Or not.
Right. I mean, my only concern, as I've said before, is, again, how much land should be permanently preserved at this time in the town when we're seeing our revenues from the state decline. And already we're about 45% of the town is permanently protected, which leaves less land for other things. And if somebody wants to give the land trust land, they do a great job with their stuff, but how much, as a policy statement, how much more land should the town encourage the land trust to preserve? I mean, what is the real ultimate,
Isn't any of this,
how much is it buildable?
yeah, I mean, what of this is buildable at all?
I don't know.
Most of it, I think, is wooded hillside, if I'm
Right.
thinking of what I'm correctly.
Fairly steep, fairly rocky.
I don't know about rocky, but I think it's fairly steep. I
I
think
think
it's
in
wooded.
here, this is open. Right here.
Mhm.
There's a field there. There are houses
There are houses,
here,
yeah.
here. Other people have crossed the stream and built houses on the other side. I just think at this particular point when the state doesn't have money to give us for education or for roads, to think that the state or have any money to give us in payment in lieu of taxes. They own 25% of the land of the town and they give us absolutely nothing in lieu of taxes at this point. I think philosophically, I think we're getting to the point where the town may be at a point where we need to do other things with the land. Not that it maybe happens anyway, but I don't know. I'm not convinced at this particular point of time.
You're not convinced that this would be a good,
Thing for the town.
So what we're asking to
think-
support their application to the state of Connecticut for a grant to help purchase and preserve 104 acres. So by supporting this application, we're asking them to ask the state for money to preserve 104 acres, which obviously comes from a different pot of money than all the other pots that we seem to get money from, because those seem to be empty. But apparently there's a pot somewhere that has money. And again, as the town's losing population, as the whole area is losing population, how much more should the state, I mean, I just think the state's spending priorities are out of whack at this point. But this, again, is another good project. Land Trust has a lot of reasons to say this should be permanently preserved. But at this particular point in time, as February 1st, 2018, I'm not sure I'm ready to support it personally. But I'm not. It's not on top of my list of things to do.
Well, it's taking more land off the tax roll.
Right. And less land for, I mean, the only way we're going to pay for our schools and for our roads is by having a tax base. And so, and we need to encourage more building and things because the state has no money to pay us for their forest land for education, for roads.
You
And I
raise a
don't
very
think- I mean,
good
the
point.
state-
I don't
The state of
disagree.
Connecticut owns this, they own this. You know, there's a lot of, it's not like the town doesn't have a lot of preserved land in the neighborhood right now anyway. They've bought most of the land between here and Cornwall Bridge belongs to the state of Connecticut at this particular point in time. And once they buy it, that's it. you know, we asked them for some land, as it's, they own thousands of acres for affordable housing. They said they can't, once they buy it for permanent protection, they can't give any of it up. Separate issue, but it's here, you know,
Nor can any of it be used for cell service.
or, yeah.
I don't think. I think that was one of the, they were
Right.
never in the position of using their land for cell tower positions.
Correct.
Not that I'm think the concept of putting a cell tower in any of this would be a good idea.
It's probably not gonna happen with the other one that's already in place.
But there is one field there that could be used for
Or the
affordable
edge of the
housing.
field.
Hmm?
Somebody put a house on the edge of the field up in the woods somewhere,
Yeah,
probably. There's,
So
this
they're
is
not asking-
Benjamin's barn up
They're
in
not
here.
asking for this, the state to be, they're asking us to support something that the Conservation Commission,
Trust,
the Conservation Trust purchases,
correct.
not the state.
Correct, we belong to the Conservation Trust.
they're asking us to support their request for state funds, the Conservation Trust's request for state funds to purchase this land.
Well, so is it, I'm throwing out ideas. Is it possible to support their proposal if there was some something in here that held out some part of the land for some kind of housing, some kind of other use, not all the property? I mean, I don't know whether it be affordable housing or just some kind of housing,
Right? Or mixed use of the property.
or mixed use of the property. I'm not quite sure how to define what I'm saying. Because some of it would make some kind of sense, tying together some state stuff. But maybe, I don't know if this is Hayden now or not. I think it used to be. I don't know if it is now.
Yeah, well, open space and watershed land acquisition grant program. So it's pretty clear if you get the land for that, that's not mixed use, that's pretty much.
Well,
Yeah, but I
Yes-
think,
yes and no.
I think philosophically, we could write the Conservation Trust a letter that we have declined this opportunity to support this request. If they generally have requests that would be more mixed use for housing and other mixed uses of property, we would consider those.
47, it's 100 acres. It's a
Right.
total of 100 acres. I mean, we can support some part of it. We don't have to support all three parcels. I don't know, I'm just trying to,
Yeah,
you know, if you feel that this parcel has other possible uses to it, that, I mean, they are three separate entities,
three separate pieces.
three separate,
In reality, they have to get this in by February 1st.
And the reality is that piece that you're looking at that's level and clear, I think is very wet.
But again, the Benjamins have for years farmed and built a house.
But this is not
here.
including the Benjamin property.
No, but I'm just saying it's right next door. It's similar
Right.
things, and there's a barn there. Their
But when
house.
you're driving down Route 4, before you get to the Benjamins,
Right.
there's a lot of wetland.
Absolutely,
right
right around, this is a pond here.
Yeah.
With some willows that have fallen over.
Yeah.
And then you have this back here.
there. Yeah, and that
But-
back there, I think, continues to be very wet.
Right, but then you have this area here where somebody came back in, built a house. I mean, eventually
Yeah.
you get farther enough up the hill, you're gonna get out of the floodplain.
Yeah.
this is where
Horner.
Horner lives, right?
Yep.
I still think that was the piece that was most affected by the tornado,
Right there.
because it used to be a 15-acre
Wow.
pine forest,
Wow.
and the next day it was a 15-acre field.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of stubs.
Well, not a field, but 15 acres of open land.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you want to do?
I think we should let Gordon write his creative letter.
We'll write a letter and send it up, approve it at the next meeting.
No, they need this by February 1st.
Right, well,
Right.
if
So
we
you
approve it
need
by
to do
the-
something.
Right.
If we approve it at the next meeting, we're moving right along.
February 7th.
No, we're too late.
Oh, is that too? Oh.
Right, so,
Um, Well, we're supportive of the Conservation Trust, but the use of lands in mixed use is
is where we're at.
is a priority.
Use land, support efforts.
Or the mixed use of land.
Seem to be
Um,
increasingly apparent. Increasingly,
We're supportive of the Conservation Trust, however, the mixed use of land.
is increasingly important. And note that this, that also the state revenue has declined.
There's virtually no taxes paid on this, I gotta believe, because it's all gotta be in,
Some of it's probably it's in 490.
yeah, some kind of 490
Right.
something, wouldn't it be?
Yes, but potentially if there could be some taxes paid if it was in a mixed use, definitely. Town obligations on shrinking tax. Okay, so if you want to allow me to write some response
If I can ask.
supporting mixed use.
How, this property right here, which was created in some subdivision, maybe was originally on this side, on this part of all of this property with the barn?
Maybe.
I mean, how is that supposed to be accessed?
I think some of this was bought by Buddy when the town bought Footfield. He bought some of this in here originally.
So this is, where's that? This is Footfield right here, and this is all
Right.
the wet spot of Footfield,
Yep.
or does it come all the way back here?
And I think originally the Foots may have owned some of this in separate contiguous parcels or whatever.
But how is access supposed to be gained to this one?
Through here.
Well, I know, but these people have to agree to that.
But they're all owned by the same person now.
That's not the King property, that one with the point on it?
I think King,
King, which one's King?
that's Duke. Duke's over on this side of the brook. They're in here. This is all Duke. Next to Footfield. Access there, access here. And I'm not sure whether Buddy owns this piece and this piece. How that all played out.
And this is originally Jamgotcha, maybe?
Jim Gotchin or Foot. I think this might have been Foot.
Or maybe this was all Foot.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Footfield,
yeah.
right there. And now this was Archie's.
This was Footfield.
Well,
all
no,
the
that's not true either. I don't know.
I think this was Archie's, because that was always his pond.
Right, so then they sold this to Buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Jim Gotchin.
And maybe this, you're right, this may have all been Foot.
Yep. It all fits.
Because this is all Foot.
Yep.
Hadn't thought of that. But even so, maybe these were cut out when the town was given that? I mean,
Yeah, or something. I don't know. Who knows?
I'm just wondering if there's accesses on these properties that come out here somewhere.
I don't think there's much access. All right, so somebody wants to make a motion?
What's the letter say? What's the note say?
That we support the Conservation Trust efforts. However, on this particular piece, we'd be much more in favor of mixed land use, including housing and other things. And it's increasingly important for the town to preserve its tax base in light of the state's declining revenue things, and we look forward to working with them in the future on more mixed, balanced growth land use. Something like that.
Okay. So, we're making a motion to authorize you to write that letter, is that it?
Right, before February 1st.
If you just made the motion, I'll second it.
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Right.
You can't sit here, you gotta take the
So the
heat.
motion is just to authorize Gordon to write a letter
Yeah.
to the CCT by February 1st,
Right.
not with all that other
Right.
stuff.
And tell them they can feel free to watch the video if they're confused by the letter.
And I seconded it.
Right.
All those in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And are you abstaining?
I'll abstain because I've got to come up with a letter. Right. All right.
That's pretty good, I like that.
There we go. All right. Next next things. West Cornwall sewer study funding. Basically, the WMC did not spend all the money that was allocated in the grant by the time. They got the job done for less than the grant received by the Council of Governments was for to study the West Cornwall. And
I think there's several copies there, is that right?
several copies. So the question, at this point, so we asked, or Jocelyn the COG asked the state whether they would be willing to extend the grant and let them use more than,
No, they must have spent more money here, though.
well, this is
What's in.
what's in the grant at this point. The town meeting on August 12th said to appropriate up to $52,000 West Cornwall Village septic alternatives. Come from the town's dedicated general funds balance. We understand the minimum of $45,000 will be reimbursed by the state grants. And I'm not exactly sure how much has been spent to date, but the whole amount, the whole 52,000 hasn't been spent. It's more like 40 something thousand. So there's, 8,000, 7,000 or something that hasn't been spent by the grant. But the problem is the grant period went to January 1st. So the grant is finished and the state doesn't want to extend the grant because
Yeah.
they felt that they had other uses for the money and they wanted to see more.
Did we spend the money and get the bill, did
So
we
here's the
spend?
tricky part. Now,
Thank you.
this was all done thinking the town was going to put up the money and get reimbursed by the state. What actually happened was that it was spent by the COG, and then the COG has basically been doing the grant instead of the town, because the COG's administering the grant. So the town actually hasn't spent
Any money.
any money or much money. We spent some early and then it came back.
Spent
And that's kind of-
7,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So, in other words, there's probably some money left that the town could access to do some more work if the state refuses, which they have, which is their right, to extend the grant. So what I've got to do now is ask Steve McDonald for a proposed work schedule. What work is he doing for the next several months? Do we see work happening in the new fiscal year? Do we put money in next year's budget for this study? Where do we come up with obviously some input of the committee? So Steve's going to come up with a work schedule, what he feels as far as the outstanding issues, looking at alternate sites, working with DEP. I mean, the major work has been done at this point. So that's where we're at, and this is Barbara's attempt to try to put the finances in perspective as far as where we're at. So basically,
this is pretty muddy though.
pretty muddy. So basically, the town appropriated a bunch of money, expecting that the town was going to administer the grant. What happened was the grant went directly to the COG, not to the town. So the town has not had the fiduciary responsibility of administering the grant. Meanwhile, the town says we can spend up to $43,000 to do a study, thinking the state's going to reimburse us. So that puts us in a little bit of limbo as far as authorizing a bunch of money that we haven't spent any of the money yet, but
We're not gonna get any money.
we're not going to get any money to reimburse it. But we did say the town was going to spend, 5%, $5,000, whatever it was, out of our own, because it wasn't a complete grant of our own. Plus, we did have some citizens and the Cornwall Conservation Trust, to give everybody full credit, brought in whatever this is, another $2,000 on to get us up to $52,000. So $7,000 is beyond what we thought the state was going to spend.
Is the COG, have they received money from the state that they anticipated getting?
Well, that's a good question, but I'm pretty sure the COG has been paid.
Okay, that's a key question.
Okay,
Has the COG been reimbursed for
Right.
their expenses as anticipated, as
Right.
fully as anticipated?
Yeah.
And so they paid all these bills that
Right.
were submitted by
Yeah,
WMC?
because they have some reserves, so
Okay.
this was a competitive process. This is one out of 7 grant proposals the
Yeah.
COG submitted to the state. We got lucky, we got the thing, so because it went directly to the state, they wanted the COG to administer it, not the town. But
Okay.
again, we felt that the town, when we
Right, but
initially
we-
had it, we thought the town was going to.
But we do want to make sure that the COG was made whole by the state.
Yeah.
That they received as much of the money
Yeah.
that they anticipated getting.
Yeah.
And if anything, I would think we shouldn't make COG responsible for whatever shortfall.
Right. I'm pretty sure
they may
that,
have.
I'm pretty sure they're all set because,
Yeah, yeah.
but they said no more after January 1st.
And if they were given, if they had a shortfall, they'd be letting us know.
Right, yeah,
But we should still ask.
right. So the question is, because there's this other money that was raised by Cornwall people, several $1,000s, and there was Cornwall's $5,000 share of this, is that available if there's more work to be done in the near term on this project?
Yes, I would say yes, it is available.
Right, and that's what I think Barbara's saying too, but I don't think the 43,000 is available to us.
No.
Because I don't think we could go back to another town meeting and say we need $43,000. I don't think the committee needs another $43,000 right at this particular time. But I don't think we can spend this $43,000 twice.
No, absolutely not. Because it's based on the assumption that some amount of it
Right.
is going to be reimbursed.
Most of it. Yeah, that the real financial impact to the town was $5,000. Net impact was what we were thinking,
Right.
which is a lot different than a net impact of $43,000.
So the 5 impact plus the amounts donated from
The
other
people.
locations.
Right, which people can donate to this capital.
Right.
But it
fund.
would be nice to have the study continue.
Right,
Because the major drawback right now is that the suggested sites for this wastewater control, the neighbors are up in arms about. The people who live on Lower River Road, and a lot of the people on River Road don't think they need it and don't want it. So there hasn't been a proposal of a site that seems to resonate with people. You've
Correct.
been at the meetings.
right,
I
yeah,
think.
absolutely.
Or
yeah.
resonate positively. anyway.
Resonate positively, yeah, yeah.
They're definitely
Yeah.
resonating.
Oh, yeah, very
Right.
negative meetings, very negative.
Right, yeah, so, anyway, I think to move forward, I mean, the that
So the
seemed to
work
be-
isn't finished, and,
Right.
and when the work is complete, then what we're facing is how much is this going to cost and who's going to pay for it?
Right.
So
I think we have to have as accurate figures as we can
Yes.
for the town and for the individuals that are there. So
Mm-hmm.
if this thing comes to pass and all of a sudden people start getting these significant bills,
Yeah.
people have to know that ahead of time. What is the impact for the potential users, as well as what role,
Mhm.
if any, the town is going to pay on that. I did talk to Trinity people last week,
Mhm.
and they said that they are at this point unable to make any commitments to be a partner
Mm-hmm.
in this project because they're working on getting their operations going, and that's the goal for this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And after they get that going, they're going to start doing some 5-year planning. But at this point, they've got to get
Yeah.
their operations smoothed out. So, and the general feeling is that their septic systems are adequate for what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So they, at this point, don't see a role for them in their limited
Right.
time to do a partnership thing.
Makes
So that's
sense.
another
Yeah.
piece of the puzzle.
Because that
And-
was suggested that Gordon was
Right.
going to talk to them. A lot of the people on River Road thought, oh, that's a wonderful idea. Send it
Right.
down to Trinity.
Except
Well, I
if
think
you're on the
it-
receiving
I
end,
think
it's not such a
it
good idea.
would still be worthwhile to expend, to take what funding is left,
Right,
and better understand what is possible, even if the location goes wanting. Because it still may, because the information will still have some validity in the future.
mhm,
And whether that be today, tomorrow, next week, next year, or 5 years from now, there'll still be
Right.
some validity.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that they did do, importantly, is lay out a structure for how to, sort of the mainstay and the limbs off of it. We have some idea of what's possible, but more
Yep.
work needs to be done.
right. And I think Steve and Todd and I will go in and meet with DEP in the next month or so and get them on
Yeah.
the page. So, I mean, there is work that needs to happen to keep on pushing it forward.
Well, it's good to understand the funding, though.
Right.
And to make
Yes.
sure that.
So it looks
key
like
thing-
there's,
the
I mean,
key
I think
thing
for the stuff
Yeah.
we're talking about, hopefully we've got
That cog
enough
is
there
being-
to
Yeah.
do it, and we'll again, make that part of our budget consideration. Okay, anything else on that?
No? May I keep this?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Any, let's see, additions, COG meeting, I think we talked a little bit about the Commissioner of Transportation. It was interesting, and Priscilla was there, which was nice. What was stunning to me was that the state was running out of money in the transportation funds, and the majority of their funding is going towards subsidizing train and bus service.
Mm-hmm.
So all these construction projects in the state aid are a minority of their actual expenditures. And so and they are making adjustments to those services, but you'd think DOT with all the snow plowing, the road construction, all that would be most of their money. It's going to subsidize train and bus travel. So,
What, did he,
and
How
also
did-
they are seeing less money coming in. They reduced the gas tax, and they did not, Connecticut's one of the few northeastern states that does not have tolls. So,
yeah,
have
what's
no
with that?
tolls.
What's with?
and
the-
then they
what's
went into
with-
this thing about it's going to take us 5 years to put in tolls. And I said, come on, why is that taking 5 years? I don't get it. I mean, I could, on the back of the envelope, figure out where he said, well, you can't just do border tolls. You have to have something that takes 2 years to get to the federal government. So this should be a bipartisan agreement that it shouldn't take you
And it should
2
and it
years
should
to do
happen
a study.
today and
And
implemented
I
in
get
a
it,
couple
that
of
you
years.
have to spend that money that's raised by the tolls in the corridor of which it is raised, that's fine. But, and everybody already knows, they've talked about tolls, not just on 95, 91, but potentially Route 8, some other places. But I said if the alternative to tolls is raising local property taxes, which is what we're gonna have to do, I think it's better to diversify your revenue streams than just rely on the property tax. Right?
I mean,
And I don't see why it takes 5 years to figure out how to put in tolls.
When is the guy told me
Inexcusable.
that to go over I think it was either the George Washington or the Tappan Zee Bridge in a tractor trailer, it's $100 in each direction.
Easy.
Wow.
But I also read in this weekend's Waterbury paper, they're going to put tolls in Manhattan to help
Yes.
with peak travel times. So if they can figure out how to toll Manhattan, we should be able to figure out how to put some tolls
They're going
in
to where they anticipate,
on the major expressways and going in and out on peak times. And the whole thing is, it's all going to be done with, video stuff, and you just get bills.
with the
So it's,
the overhead.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
overhead thing.
Easy pass.
And I wouldn't think it would be such a big deal to put those overhead things in.
no,
Now, we have an easy pass. We've always had one because for years we were commuters up.
right.
And we still keep one in each of our cars. In fact, Asher got a bill today. We automatically have, I think, $50.
Right, but
in
you
the
also
account.
know that money has to be spent for
Yeah.
fixing that, keeping that up as opposed to crumble.
But the state, the ideas they're throwing out increasing the sales tax again, increasing the transfer tax when we sell a property, which they get a larger piece of than the town does.
One thing I read in the paper, can you believe that? I read a paper that the Supreme Court is accepting the case of North Dakota or South Dakota against Wayfair.
Against who?
Wayfair, the online
Oh.
catalog company.
Right.
And they're going to revisit the 1992 decision about online sales tax. And they expect a ruling by June.
Right,
It
because
may-
some states don't have sales tax, but they're charging internet tax
Yeah.
or something like that.
Well,
So-
this would require the rule now is, this was back in the day when it was catalogs, when it was LL Bean and Land's End. If you had a presence in the state of some sort, maybe a distribution center, then, or a
Outlet store.
outlet store, thank you, then you were required to pay sales tax for all online or mail order. At that point, it was
Right,
called mail
right.
order. Mail order sales. But now times have changed, and the argument that if we buy any internet stuff from Missouri, or
Amazon or
Amazon,
whoever.
all that stuff, it's an interesting point, and this article was saying that there are diverse people on the court that are of the opinion that appear to be of the opinion that it may happen, which would be we'd all be required to pay more sales tax
Yeah.
on all the purchases we make that are currently sales tax free, but
It may,
be a boon for the state.
right, and most states could use a boon.
Right, yeah,
And also,
absolutely.
it would balance the Main Street versus the internet somewhat
Right.
more too.
Now, I would hope that if that comes to pass, the state of Connecticut, it would help get the state of Connecticut out of fiscal disarray, but I hope they don't just flush all the money down the toilet and still go off and spend it in less than careful ways.
Yeah.
So the other interesting discussion we had there, if we weren't already feeling a little depressed about finances, we had a very good presentation about the opioid crisis in northwestern Connecticut by the head of the McCall Foundation, and they are working on a local video of this area about the opioid crisis and local solutions and local challenges. So what I'm going to try to do is get a link to that. So I'll let you know, Richard, in the website, because I think if this is a good, if it's a good video, it'd be good to have it up on the website.
Yeah.
Certainly that's reached Cornwall as well as everywhere else.
The bear video is being watched a lot, that I did the other day,
Okay,
the bear discussion.
there we go. So anyway, so we heard about those things and some other things. So that's about it for there. And so then our next thing is public comment. Any public comments?
Oh, that's-
Snowing? Got the grippers on? It's winter time. Okay, thanks for coming. And we'll pay bills and go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Thank you.